So we're almost done. The last piece that we need to do is get all the movies that the character was in and put those into state. We need to go out to the API, get data about them, put them in the state, and then display them on screen correctly. We're going to display them with the title and then the year next to it in parentheses. So first things first, like usual, we're going to go into character actions, go all the way to the bottom here, and we're going to create another function, another action creator here, and we're going to call it get character movies. Now this is going to be sort of like the world, but remember a character could be in multiple movies. So we're actually going to get an array of movie URLs here instead. Now this is going to be just like the previous ones we've done. We're going to return a thunk, and that thunk gets dispatch. Now because we're getting an array of movies, it's a little bit more difficult. Each movie will be a URL, and it will have its own endpoint that we have to hit. So we're going to be having to hit multiple endpoints all at the same time. The best way to do this is to send them all out at once, get all the data back, wait for them all to finish, and then continue on with all of the data. Since fetch returns promises, we can use promise.all to do that for us. So promise.all, if you give it an array of promises, it will wait for all of them to come back successfully, and then it will go on to its own then, which we'll see as we go. So we're gonna map over the movie URLs, and that's going to give us a URL. And we want to make sure that from this, each one of these needs to be its own request. So we need to use fetch to go to that URL, and then what we're going to do is we're going to then get the response. We're going to parse the JSON like usual. And then that will actually get returned into the array that is returned from this map function. Since promise.all takes an array of promises, and that's exactly what this map is going to do, it will wait until they all come back successfully, and then we'll move on. So promise.all, we're going to listen for it to finish, and then that's going to be all the movie data, and we're just going to call it movies. And then like in the other ones, what we want to do is we want to dispatch another action, and it's simply going to be like the other one, set character movies, and we're going to pass in the movies that we got. Now the next thing we need to do is need to actually create this set character movies action. So we create set character movies, it gets movies, and from there we're just going to return a simple object. The type is going to be set character movies, and from this we're going to return movies. Now we need to make sure we create this constant so that it exists. So up here at the top, I'll just do that. So set character movies is there. Excellent. So now that we have that there, we need to create the reducer that will handle adding this data to our state. So first things first, in the index.js for this one, we want to make sure that we add the movies to it. And all this should be very familiar to you all because it's a very similar process to what we've been doing. We also need to create a movies.js file in here, and this is where we're going to put our reducer. We need to make sure that we're importing the set character movies constant from our actions file. We need to make sure that we're setting an initial state, and this initial state, because we know it's going to be an array of movies, so it's going to be an empty array. And then we, just like all our others, are going to export default, something that takes a state, and that's going to be equal to, by default, our initial state that we set up, which in this case is an empty array, and then also receives the action. We are going to switch on the action type, and then we know one of our cases is going to be set character movies, so set character movies, and we'll deal with that in a second. And then we know the default one is going to be that we just need to return the state. I want to make sure that all these movies are in order of where they are in the series. So for example, episode 1 should be first every single time, whereas the fourth movie in the series should be the fourth one. They're not in order of release date, they're in order of how they fit in the timeline of the movie series. So whenever we see these, instead of just returning them like we have been, we want to make sure we sort them ahead of time. So we're still going to return action.movies, but we also want to make sure we want to sort these movies first. So we're actually going to get two movies. We're going to get MA and MB, which just stands for movie A and movie B. And we know that we want to return, given how sort works, we want to return the episode ID of the first one, and we're going to do minus the episode ID of the second. Now, the reason this works is because of how sort works. I recommend, if you're not 100% sure how the sort function works, you should go to MDN, Mozilla Developer Network, and you should check it up on there. It's pretty simple once you think about it, implementing it, but you should still check it out. So anyhow, this will make sure that the movies are in episodic order. And so now we have our data being dealt with. We're getting the data. We have the actions to get the data. We have the reducers to handle the data, but we need to display the data. So this time we'll actually create the component first. So inside our components directory, we want to create one. It's going to be called character movies. We know we need to import React, and we also need to import the connect function from Redux. We want to create our character movies component. And then we know we want to export default. We want to call connect 2 times. And the second time we want to pass it character movies. Now, of course, I'm sure you've guessed that we're going to use map state props per usual. We want to go in and we want to pull out the character data. And inside the character data, all we care about right now are the movies. And when we get those movies, we return an object that has the movies on it. This lets us know that movies will be passed in as props. So when we go up to our component, we can pull those directly out. And I'm just going to copy and paste ours in here. And you can see, again, we just got a div. It's got an H1 that shows the movies. We're creating a list of all the movies. And it's very simple. All we're doing, we're mapping over each of the movies. We're splitting the date because the date comes as year, month, day, separated by hyphens. So we will split on that. And then we will return a list item. The key is the movie title. We want to output the movie title, and then we also want to output the first of our date array that we split, which happens to be the year, and we want to output that. So then we'll have the title and the year right next to each other, and that's our component. Now, we're not finished yet. There is one more piece. I forgot to add map state to props down here, so that's very important. But there is one more piece. We need to make sure that we're actually adding it to our app.js component, like usual. So we've got character movies, and then down here instead of character world, we've got character movies. So we should be set with everything. Now that we have all this, all our data should be going through correct. Let's go restart our server. And we have an issue. It looks like something up with Redux. I'm assuming it's in our newest one. Oh, and yep, it's not Redux, it is React Redux. Excellent. There we go. Populated all our characters for us. If we click on, let's say, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and all the movies aren't getting kicked off. So let's go look. And there's one very important thing we missed. We need to make sure that we add get character movies up here in our function we created earlier. And we need to make sure that we are passing our action creator for getting the character movies, the films. They're stored as films. So now that we have all that, restart this just to be 100% certain. And I click on one of them, and there are all the movies. You can see that we're getting the character movies. If we look at it in state, go character movies, there's all the data about the movies, and it's made sure that they are in the correct order. If I click on another one, it makes sure that they are always in episodic order. If we expand this out, we can see our styles end up like this. And that's it.